So now that we're stepping into spring, we're getting more intense sunlight. And unfortunately, the modern mainstream narrative is that we need to fear this sunlight as it gets stronger and stronger in its intensity. And that is exactly what I want to discourage you from doing. Instead, I want you to learn how to work with the increasing intensities of sunlight in order to use that sunlight for health and healing. But it's understandable, right? Because we have a lot of people talking to us about the sun being damaging, or perhaps we've maybe had some bad experiences with sunlight as well. But what I want you to understand is the sun in and of itself is not inherently out to get us. But as humans living a modern life, we are the ones that are actually misusing the sun, and then perhaps unfortunately experiencing things like sunburns or damage as a result of that. And so here's a typical situation. The typical situation is something that I lived for a majority of my life. I used to burn in the sun all the time. And I just thought that that was my skin type and that was normal. And so I had to fear the sun or slather on sunscreen or wear massive amounts of clothing when I was outside so I wouldn't burn when I was exposed to the sun. So what I would do, and this is what a lot of us do, is we live an indoor life, right? I was very unaware of how my circadian rhythm or how light did anything for me, except maybe I could turn it on when I needed it to see. Let's say it was early in the morning and I needed to see, flipping on a bunch of artificial lights, or maybe at night if I needed to see, I would flip on artificial lights, or I would walk into a store during the day and lights would be on, right? That's all I thought about light, right? I didn't think anything at all about how it sets the circadian rhythm. I didn't think anything at all about how that circadian rhythm signals thousands and thousands of pathways and optimizes them in my body. And so when I would have an opportunity to go out into natural light, let's say the typical experience would be the first really warm day in Michigan, let's say Labor Day, right around, or I'm sorry, Memorial Day, right? Spring, the unofficial start of summer, right? Memorial Day here. I would have not been in the spring light a ton at all because it's still cold and it's nice and all, but I don't really, it's not my fit. I didn't really care about it too much. And so I didn't care about it. And so it was there and I was happy. Maybe I felt a little better when the sun was out and shining as opposed to the cloudy days of winter and the cold. But it wasn't really in my awareness at all. And so come Memorial Day weekend, I, like so many people, would step out into a barbecue or something, or I'd go to a pool party and I'm wearing my bikini and got my sunglasses on and I'm just laying out, right? I'm just in that sun, basking, soaking it up, enjoying time with friends or family. And at the end of the day, I'd look at myself and be like, oh no, I am fried. I am so red. My skin is sore to the touch. And this happened to me so many times that my grandpa used to tell me. He grew up on a farm, right? As a farmer, he knew like a remedy for when their skin had a little bit too much sun exposure. He would soak cloths in apple cider vinegar or in just regular white vinegar, distilled vinegar, and he would put it on the sunburned areas and it would pull the heat from the tissue. And so I had this in my repertoire. I was like, oh, okay, got to go to the store, buy a ton of apple cider vinegar and some rags and soak my body, or I would pour it in my bathtub and just soak in this apple cider vinegar because it really did. It pulled some of the heat from my skin. And then I thought to myself, oh, I should have known I should have reapplied that sunscreen, or well, I really should have, put a cover up on, and that sun is out to get me. That happened to me so much. But what I started to realize when I started to dive more into these circadian and quantum health practices was that the sun wasn't out to get me. I was misusing the intensity of that sunlight. So what I'm going to teach in this beautiful 14-day spring healing challenge is how we are supposed to layer on the sunlight on our skin so that come Memorial Day or come the 4th of July or come, the middle of August, we're not we're not having that same experience that I had so many times of having an opportunity to be in more sunlight than I had ever shown my body in the spring at all. And then all of a sudden my body is overwhelmed with the intensity and just gets burnt, right? Gets burnt. And so I hope you recognize with that story, I drastically misused the sunlight. I misused the sunlight because I didn't adapt my body to the early spring with the early spring light at all. I wore sunglasses. That actually causes my skin to not be able to adapt as well. And then I stayed out in the light well beyond the natural signaling mechanisms that my body has built into it to tell me when maybe I've applied too much sunlight on my skin or I'm reaching that point. And so this 14-day challenge is an opportunity to change your relationship with sunlight, to understand how to apply it, to understand what the effect of when I wear sunglasses or sunscreen and how that can change the signaling and mute the expression of excessive sunlight so that my skin starts to burn instead of receiving the initial signals that I've had enough sunning for the day. And so this is an opportunity. If you are like me and you always burned, this is a chance to receive the sun's intensity in a structured, gradual way so that you can go outside in the middle of summer and you can have these beautiful days at the beach and you no longer burn. And instead, you layer on a beautiful tan, or you recognize the signals of when your sun has or your skin has received enough sunlight for the day, and you know then how to modify, maybe put on a cover up or something like that to pull yourself out of the more intense wavelengths of sunlight. So this is an opportunity to learn how to change your relationship with sunlight. And when you do, I hope you derive the same benefits that I have and countless of my clients have in terms of feeling amazing in that beautiful, healing, full spectrum sunlight, allowing us to naturally build up massive amounts of vitamin D all summer long so that we can support our body and our healing all winter long with those beautiful vitamin D stores that we've made. So lots of health and healing can happen when sunlight directly hits the skin. We just have to change our relationship with sunlight and coach in some key strategies on how to use it appropriately. And that starts in the spring.